People are upset over what a former collaborator said about V, allegedly. People are saying that the label blacklists particular members of BTS and what's going on with that, as well as Jennie speaking out and people talking about that. So Dumplings, it's Dave Josiah. Let's get into it. People have been so excited that Jennie is back in action and she's going on interviews and talk shows and all that sort of stuff again. It's very exciting to hear what she has been up to and the newer things that she's been working on. It's just good to see her in the media again. A lot of people have been believing that Blackpink is completely over. I don't even really fully blame them for that belief because I don't believe any official statement was mentioned about what the future of the girls was going to be. And then we're just seeing them not really being together anymore, but then working on a lot of stuff independently. And obviously each and every one of these things have been wildly successful, so a lot of people just believe, why would the members come back together again if they're just having a lot of fun being on their own? We even have Lisa, who seemingly started her own label and is promoting through that. So what are the odds that she's going to go back to the group again and then be a part of a different label? Now, of course, the label is a subsidiary, I believe, of YG, but would she then have to be going to a different subsidiary to then re-sign again with Blackpink, which doesn't always make the most sense for her right now, maybe. Of course, this doesn't mean that it won't happen or that the group is completely out of commission. Rose had talked about during one of her interviews that she considered herself still part of the group, and Jennie even kind of had a cute emotional reaction to the group when it was played during one of her recent interviews. She was in Paris, I think, and she made a bit of a reaction when the interview host showed her debut song, as well as some of her other songs with the group that have come out, and she seemed really excited to see everyone again. I wouldn't be surprised if they all have group chats and they all chat with each other every now and then, and they kind of just see what everyone's doing. So it's not like they don't see each other at all. But it's cool, at least for her, I think, to see all four of them together on screen again, because she's probably not seen them all in a while. Plus, as you can imagine, it probably would bring back a rush of emotions, right? So just from this reaction, a lot of people believe that at least Jennie would be excited to go back with the group for a little bit. And right now, they're just kind of exploring some of their options as a solo artist. And if anything, it's going to make the group a lot more stronger when they all come back together. But they all have such strong and huge solo fans. I actually don't know if there is a particular study that can show how fans react when a solo artist goes back together with a group, or even if a solo artist goes into a group. So science does support the fact that when a group disbands, the community essentially disbands, and oftentimes not evenly. However, what is the statistic when a bunch of solo artists come together or come back together again? Do only half of the solo community come and support the group, or is it more than that? But the more important thing about this story really shows that a lot of K-pop groups don't ever fully disband, and they do come back together. Most of the time they do come back together and they truly do love each other, and it's not just one of those things where the moment they just disband, they'll never be seen with each other again. Now, switching gears a little bit, one story that surfaced today was quite crazy, and it's something that we definitely have to talk about. Recently, there was a post that was basically saying to this media site that they were being manipulated by the label and they had spread this false story. And the story was basically saying that Jimin won this particular accolade, but the community really believes that JK won that accolade. The story was really confusing to me because I don't know where they were getting any of this information from, especially this information. The label was being a manipulator. What source did they have to rely on that information? But also, it's extremely difficult to verify specific accolades because unless you're sitting at your computer watching one particular artist either go up and down the charts, then you don't really know. Also, the fact that they're getting specific album sales or specific accolades like that is widely determined by information that is private. The label does have to release this information, but you can never really know what is accurate, and especially when there are millions of sales that are to be accounted for. Even a computer that is tracking sales can miss a number or two. So it's really difficult to accurately know what is true and what isn't. Also, awards and accolades are changing all the time. So just because someone wins an award today doesn't mean that tomorrow it can't be overtaken by someone else. So whichever article was released first, it likely could be true that the person that was released the latest had beaten that previous award. These tweets and these comments are often talking about just the title of the award, so the singer won this, without ever providing the actual numbers. So we are to just believe, and we're just supposed to believe that member won this award without any actual proof or like what the breakdown was. And the articles don't always talk about the breakdown. Some of them do. Now, the interesting part, which I just touched on a little bit earlier, was that this award from Jimin that people believe was fake was from Kpop Herald, which is seen as a reputable news source. And a lot of people were saying that they were being manipulated by the label. And as I said earlier, they have no evidence to prove that that news article was being manipulated. Of course, I do want to challenge this thought, which of course means people are going to be really upset by this, something that I would like people to think about. These people that are calling the news site not reputable for spreading misinformation and saying that the award goes to Jimin and not JK, and even going as far as to say that they are being manipulated because the information that the news site is giving is not information that they want to hear. Instead, they're taking information from a site that isn't reputable, but just the news story that they believe is real. And then they're saying that Kpop Herald isn't reputable and isn't telling the truth because a news story that they interpret and that they don't like is spreading misinformation. But what I find disturbing is that everything is speculative. Did the news site make up the story narrative is completely speculative. Did the label make up the story and send it to the news team to specifically target JK because they're blacklisting him and they hate him? That is also completely speculative. And what is insane is if you scroll down these tweets, it's mass people copy and pasting the same statement or same sentence and tagging the label as well as tagging the news site and just mass tweeting this. I mean, there are accounts that will tweet this hundreds of times, and they're doing this because they believe something is not supported by anything. This is honestly why you have to watch your kids, because literally only kids sit around and do this. No one who has a job, no one who has half a brain is sitting there and tweeting 10, 20, 30 of the same sentences over and over again on their platform and harassing these companies. And they brainwash themselves into thinking that they're actually making a difference and they're actually moving the needle. Harassment online, you should be able to take legal action on, especially if someone's tweeting like 30 of the same thing about you or at you. This was even more disturbing when the situation with Yumi happened. If you're not aware of what happened with her, she basically replied to a comment that was nice and it was supporting her, and she just kind of left a nice reply. However, that particular person that commented had an account that I guess was a popular V and Jennie ship account. So a lot of people were speculating that she supports V and Jennie, and that is why she commented back, or just the fact that she commented back was to show support for this page. Yumi, of course, left a comment to basically reiterate what I'm about to say anyway, but I would like to stress this as well, as of course she had stressed it too. And it's that people have just made up this idea that she supports any particular ship. Now, is she supposed to go to every single comment, review their content, and then determine if it's something that she believes in or not, and then reply? Also, is that even possible? Because then how would you determine if that particular page that she is commenting or replying to was involved in any other scandal in the past that maybe isn't documented on their page, but the community would not support? So then she would have to go through every comment section on their page, as well as Google them, just to see that they're not problematic, just so that she can reply back to this person. That makes absolutely zero sense. However, I do wonder if this type of backlash would have ever touched her if it was a ship rumor that wasn't involving V. I think people in the community were kind of using this as an example to prove that V and Jennie were dating because someone that knows V responded to this account. And while that can be an assumption, these people are absolutely stupid to believe a response means anything more than it just being a response. Of course, I agree with the sentiment that no one should be harassing her, but I found some of the narrative around this kind of strange. And I will say, when people make a narrative that is strange, it's less likely that anyone from outside or anyone who's on the other side will believe your story because they find the narrative strange and then it takes the credibility out. So there are people who were defending Yumi by saying that if she was someone who wasn't a person of color, they wouldn't have harassed her. And then they go on and list the collaborators that have worked with V or BTS. However, one of the collaborators they list is Pharrell, who is black. So as I said, while I believe the point is valid, when you make a point that is valid but use the evidence that doesn't make sense, it makes your point seem less valid to other people. So please reread some of the things you say when you try to say something, and just be aware that it could not be correct or not the best way to support your argument. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos. I'll link down below. Thanks, just love the commentary. Love you, bye.